Hey everyone, welcome. We'll be starting shortly. We have a minute to go. I just want to give people time to join and get into the room and get started. Really excited to be speaking with Babu. A lot of cool stuff going on. So like I said, we'll be starting in about 1 minute. And I just want to give people a chance to log in. If you are in here and you're in the chat, step by, say hello. Hey, look, everyone's here. Hey, Babu. Hey, Babu and Joe. Hey, David, how are you? All right, yeah, people are coming in. Cool, cool. All right, looks like we have a pretty good turnout, and so let's get into it. I want to welcome everyone to this AMA session that promises to shape the way you see the future of quality assurance, QA, and software development engineering and test, especially the SDET role as it rapidly evolves in the tech-driven world we find ourselves in, the AI, machine learning. Babu's the guy to be here to answer all your concerns around this area. If you don't know, first, I'm 𝐁𝐚𝐴𝐿, and I'll be hosting the session for you. So before I introduce the speaker, though, I want to run a quick poll, trying to get a pulse on what the audience is interested in learning, and it'll help us know where to direct the conversation. So here's the poll. With AI and machine learning technologies transforming various sectors, how do you foresee the future or their impacts on the quality QA domain in the next 5 years? So you're an expert as well. If you're at a conference around test automation for 3 days, 8 hours a day or so, then you're an expert. So we'd love to know your thoughts, and then it will really help us know and get a pulse for what you all think. Cool. Hey, everyone. Hey, Edward. Hey, Emmanuel. Hey, Adam. Right. We have poll in here. Nice. Nice. All right, cool. So I'm going to keep the poll up before, and I'll announce, we'll see the results for sure once I bring Babu in officially. So it's really my pleasure to introduce you someone whose expertise spans decades and who has insights on a bunch of different things that could really illuminate where we're going to head in the next few years. If you don't know, Babu is a true leader in this industry, especially around software quality engineering. He has over 25 years of experience, and he really does a lot. He was originally a developer, and he moved to a master quality engineer. He's known as an influential educator in the tech community with TestLeaf. He's empowered over, I think it's up to 50,000 individuals across 30 countries. He's mentored them on test automation and performance engineering. So really knows his stuff, and he's dedicated to helping transform careers. And you'll see it's evident by a lot of the remarks that you'll hear him talk about within this session as well. And he really has a lot of hands-on experience as well, and really excited to have him. He is the CEO of TestLeaf and 𝐀𝐤𝐤𝐿, and he continues to drive innovation and excellence in the QA and SDET sectors. And he remains committed to this mission by inspiring, educating, and transforming careers in this rapidly advanced digital age. So, hey, big round of applause, and let's welcome Babu. Hey, Babu, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. I think I'm a little tired. I'm not well, but thank you for hosting me. I'll do my best to do every question answered. Thank you, Joe, for all the introduction.
Absolutely. Great to have you. So I'm going to bring up the poll really quick and just see the results and get your take on if you agree with this or not. So it looks like majority of people said 40% tool augmentation is where they really see next 5 years going, with the second biggest one being collaborative approach. I probably agree with this.
Yeah, I agree with this. And maybe depends on the organization they are in. Depends on the culture of the organization. This can move up. And if you work for the Hmong organization, they may be skyrocketing already. They should be doing a lot well. If you are in a services organization, captive organizations, depends on the organization type, they may be between the 3 and 2, right? And if someone's still at 1 and 2, I believe they should move up, right?
Absolutely. All right, Babu, we have a bunch of questions already coming in. If you want to ask a question to Babu, like I said, he is a leader, thought leader as well. He has a lot of insights. You just use that QA icon. So let's bring the first question to the stage. It's by Deva. Can AI, I knew this was going to be asked, can AI completely replace manual testing, or is there always a need for human intervention?
So interestingly, this question came from one of my team members, indeed.
Oh, so, really? I missed that. I didn't even know. So it's not fixed. I just took this one of the first questions.
Oh, okay. So this is a very common question indeed. I get even from the last week session I was doing with one of my community members, right? This is a common concern, right? So one of the things I wanted to go back and talk about when I started my career in development in 2000, 1999, 2000 period, people said like, okay, there is automation testing coming. You may lose the manual testing job. And they told me in 2010, 2020, I still believe that's coming, right? And when I speak with a lot of people in the community, still more than 50% of the people still do a lot of manual testing. So I want to tell this message to the entire community. So either it is AI or automation testing is not going to replace the manual testing. That's not the intent or approach. But what I believe strongly here is AI is going to help you to do things better, right? And the fundamental thing I want to tell you is if you're a tester, you're not testing just the functional testing. You're talking about testing the emotional component of it, testing mostly requiring even empathy, intuition, context, all that, right? So it requires a lot of human interactions. So if you think if you're going to let go the manual testing, I think that is totally wrong. I believe if you heard Pradeep on the kickoff session, he talked about it too, right? And remember, but it is super important for you if you are in manual testing, you better learn some of the key things which can help you to make your testing, automation testing better. I think I think we have got a lot of things to talk about as we progress, but I strongly believe the only approach I would think if you are into manual testing, start looking as an opportunity to gain some amount of knowledge and momentum towards AI testing after generative AI trying to take away some of the market key placement. We can talk more as we progress.
Great answer. I always hear all the time, it's not going to replace us. AI can't replace us on its own. A tester without AI can't replace us, but an AI with a tester probably will if you don't look into how it can help your organization. Just like automation tools, it didn't replace manual testing, but if you had nothing to do with it, a lot of times if a company was looking at people with skills, they went with someone that was a manual, someone that knew how to test software and knew how to use automation.
Sure.
So great answer. All right. So next question is, oh, here's a good one. Let's bring this up. How can you choose the right AI machine learning tool for our specific testing needs like UI automation?
I think fundamentally it depends on the context, right? So I think I may not be with just UI automation. I think I also fall into a category that you don't want to test so much of UI testing today, right? And if you're a believer of testing UI testing so much today, I'm against that thumb rule, right? As someone who has automated more than 50,000 tests, I would strongly say slow down your UI testing, right? But if you want to ask me this question, what AI or ML tool? I don't want to go and tell you exactly there is one tool. Start with identifying maybe what you wanted to really automate and use AI ML for it, right? Maybe that is a starting point. Do you want it to automate, generate your test cases, or how do you want to do it, right? That could be starting point. Or do you want to really automate something very specifically, your visual testing? Do you want to do that? Then it's a different approach. So find out exactly what you really wanted to do, based on which try to identify a tool that can help you to do that. Again, as an SDET, I am not someone who is for using just a tool, right? And I'm always fun of writing my own code base, right? Which is interesting. I don't know how many of you heard about something like Hugging Face, right? If you go to the Hugging Face library, it has a tons of data set, tons of model. It is a good approach if you want to build your own model without how to write a lot of code. It is a starting point. You don't have to jump to ChatGPT, AI to solve all your problem every single time. Maybe you can look at some solution like that. Maybe you can start even with self-healing. I'm currently using 𝐂𝐴𝐸 in one of my projects, which has an AI-powered solution with self-healing, with the locators that it can automatically consume by itself. So start looking at such options, which can help you to solve such problems to do with it. So I don't have a single answer. How do you choose it? Find out what is your requirement to automate. Maybe identify what capability you wanted to look at. Find out what tools you wanted to look at. And then maybe you wanted to also look at which one is easy for use. You may be a more of a non-coding or non-development background automation engineer, then don't go to lock yourself with libraries like Hugging Face, which may not be a great option. But go to ChatGPT, API-driven tools which can help you to solve problems easier. Then look at what is the cost attached to it, because most of us really get down when it has to do with the cost. Maybe those are all the key things I wish you can look around when you want to really start with the problem solving, right?
Absolutely. And I dropped that link in the chat for Hugging Face. I never heard of it before, Hugging Face. So that's good to know. All right. Next question. Is there an ideal roadmap to begin an SDAT journey? We talk about, manual testers should know some automation. So if someone wants to be an SDAT, what does that journey look like? I know you've educated a lot of people in this area.
So thank you. Actually, I think totally we graduated more than few hundred people who has moved to SDET role in the last 3 years. This is when we started during COVID. We found an opportunity for people moving from QA to QE to SDET, because a lot of people who can write very quality code, but they have not chosen to become developers because of not their wish, because they are pushed to take testing. I don't know how many of you. We all love testing, but somebody will be interested in testing and development, but not given a fair opportunity. So those people who wanted to still write a code and test can choose a path of becoming an SDET, right? And I generally say there is a 6-step process if you want to become an SDET. So always, if you want to become an SDET, because I help people to go to Microsoft, most of the phone company except Netflix, indeed, and also help them to go to the best payment gateway, most of the payment gateway product organization in India. So one of the key things is it starts always with data structures and algorithms. So start with your lead code, start with your hacker rank would be a starting point. Don't solve problems which are very tough to solve. Solve easy problems. And many of us don't even have to go to data structures like trees and graphs. Don't do that. Start with a simple arrays all the way to go to a map, understand the hashing algorithm, stop at that point, start solving those problems every single day with a consistency, and use them in your Selenium or Playwright code. That's a starting point. And most of us don't use that data structure in our Selenium code. Many of us used map inside our Selenium code because every Selenium API call returns as a map. We don't use them, right? So that's where I would recommend to start with. Then move forward, understanding design patterns, move forward to understand little more on the non-functional, because most of us focus so much on UI automation and we don't focus on the backend or microservices or non-functional automation. Focus on those, because SDET's career doesn't require single dimensional. It requires 360-degree. So always start with that. And always when you learn, it's going to failure, but don't worry about the failure. Fail forward, fail faster. That's an approach you should take. But if you're not looking at consistent learning within your organization or outside, I think that's a problem. So coming to this conference can help you to connect with a lot of people or single-minded, identify the peers who can learn with you, find an opportunity, grow along would be my recommendation. I hope that helped.
Absolutely great advice for sure. Next question I saw, it keeps moving, it has to do with cloud native. I'll bring it up once I find it, but I believe it was, more and more companies and organizations are moving towards cloud native. I hear it all the time on my podcast. How can QA or professionals or SDATs prepare for the transition? I know a lot of people are going through this transition to cloud native. Do you have to address testing or automation differently than you would for a normal in-house type of application?
I think yes. So fundamentally, the way you can do it is because you are testing on a black box, either inside your infra or within the cloud, doesn't matter. But if you want to become more of a QE who want to help your organization to find the defects faster with a cloud native application, the best approach is go back and understand your cloud applications better. It could be AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. Start with the fundamentals, understand the fundamentals, identify which services are being used. It could be S3s, or it could be fundamentally a Docker container, or it could be Kubernetes. Identify, maybe it's a Lambda. So go and find out what exactly being used and identify and find out what can be the best approach to solve them, right? So that could be something I wish you can go and find them better, right? That should be the approach I wish, but I think you don't have to go deeper to a particular cloud provider, but maybe starting point.
So thank you, Rajesh, for your question. Next question is, once again, they keep changing. I jotted it down really quick. Oh, here it is. Show on stage. So if you have a question, just use that Q&A tab and we'll get to it as soon as possible. We only have 30 minutes, but this next one's from Dinesh. Wants to know, are there any specific skills or areas of expertise that QA and SDET professionals should focus on to keep pace with AI advancements?
See, I think fundamentally, if you're someone who's starting a career in QA mid-level, don't have to jump to AI advancement immediately. That may not be something recommended, right? So go organic. So if you're done with your programming language, one of the programming language, I fundamentally request you to look at the UI automation, then you look at the backend automation, maybe including microservices, then look at your cloud, then look at the DevOps, then you go to the machine learning. That would be more organic, very structured, help you to be very strong at fundamentally what you are. Once you cross all this, then maybe look at AI, ML fundamentals. I think there are a lot of programs available to understand your machine learnings. Even Microsoft offering a free courses on machine learning. Start with that course and start doing it. I did it in 2018 with Stanford on machine learning, though a little expensive, worth investing, trying to find out what can help you to solve your problems. Indeed, that would be my approach.
Great approach. Yeah, there's a lot of free learning, like you said. People should take advantage of it from Google. I think even MIT has some free training. So here's something curious. You know, when I started, it was like record and playback, and then it became, oh, you have to be a developer. We're all developers. Now it seems like it's almost swinging back. I don't know if I'm wrong with some of these tools that do all the heavy lifting for you with the coding. So I'm just interjecting here, but the question here is, currently my expertise lies primarily in Selenium and Java. Considering the evolving QA and AI, should I pivot or enhance my skills for career advancement? And I would add in, does coding matter still?
Right. I think fundamentally starting with the Selenium Java is the best option indeed, because if you want to look at it as an opportunity perspective, how do you want to scale up yourself, it is a good option. But even if you heard Simon speaking on a item, he said it is no more going to be comfortable if you learn a single language, work on it, right? So I think fundamentally a lot of UI automation tools are moving towards JavaScript. I think I would recommend you look at, if you want to be on UI automation, move around, play right with JavaScript is a great option. And in case start, as I told you, then look forward for the backend automation. Backend automation would be pretty much the best option for you to move forward and start looking as an option, right? So again, as I told in the previous answer, you don't have to jump and become AI, ML algorithmist or a testing engineer on AML to become the one among the best, but you start from where you started in Selenium Java to playwright JavaScript, then move to more about REST assured or REST sharp or anything which is to do with the mocking services testing, then fundamentally spend a lot of time on contract first or anything to do with microservices testing or even driven architecture testing using Kafka. So go ahead with that dimension and move forward slowly towards what you want to really get to, right? That would be a recommendation.
Absolutely. Here's a question. I'll bring it on stage. Wants to know, will Selenium be there for a couple of years as we already see trouble in Chrome browser? Any thoughts? I mean, not to bash one tool or say one tool is better than another. There are a lot of solutions out there. I've seen other tools maybe getting more popular, but what are your any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I don't call it as a trouble. I think it is a design how Chrome has wanted to make it after 150. I think it was something, if I could go back and understand this opportunity, I started looking from 111, what they brought in. If you see, that is when people started adding the argument for the remote origin to come in. So you have to understand what Chrome really wanted to do from then. And when they introduced 115, they want Chrome to be testing as a standalone because they don't want to combine the production version versus the testing version not to be the same. So fundamentally, I think maybe in next release, there will be a better solution available for us to test. But please remember, you got better opportunity right now, not only test the current version, you're also going to test the next two versions. The alphas, also you can test 116 and 117 right now. I think it is basically any tool which has designed so much. This is a kind of solution you're going to have. But Playwright followed a different model, right? It downloaded the browser by itself and used the browser. So it is a different model. So I don't see this as a problem for Selenium, but I wish people can look at the problem and solve it faster. Would have been at Selenium team is listening to every problem being stated. I wish they will solve it quickly, but I don't call this as the era of Selenium not moving down. I wish they could really do a lot more better with the BID. I think the last conversation which we had, so I think BID is going to make Selenium much more powerful than before indeed. So I wish Selenium will have long life. I think I'm for it. But alternative solutions always competitive. So I'm also for one of the, if you're someone who is so much with Selenium, at least for the skill purpose, for the good futures, Playwright has some amount of very good futures. It's good to try, good to experiment. That is exactly I talked about the Joe before the session. If you wanted to convert your Selenium code to Playwright code, we wrote it. So we wrote a generative AI code to convert the Selenium Java code to Playwright Java code, and which helped us a lot. We didn't have a lot of tests, and we used the ChatGPT AI API-driven solutions, and we had a set of process to follow, which helped us to move forward. Right? We can talk about more if you have questions around that.
Yeah, that's really interesting approach, using generative AI to move from one framework to another. There's been a lot of rumors, which I don't think are true, that Cypress is dying or going away. It's, but that might be something a lot of people say. How do I move from one framework to another? That'd be a good approach for sure. So back to one of the questions here is from Jennifer. And Jennifer wants to know, can we really depend on AI self-healing on fixing flaky tests? And how can we decipher between an actual product failure versus not a real failure?
Yeah, pretty good question. I always found flaky tests can happen because of three reasons. If I have to draw the triangle to it, that can be three reasons. One reason could be the tool itself, the tool not handling it right. The second reason could be the application is flaky because of the developer changes are so frequent. Third thing could be it's you as a coder and you don't write your test really well, right? This could be three different reasons. So I always wanted, because flakiness is not always because of the locator. So let's understand that first. It could be because of various reasons, right? So if it is flaky, please, you don't have to accept flakiness. So what I would do in my case, right? I also someone who has been running thousands of tests in previous years and slowly started moving to writing less number of UI tests in the recent years, right? So here is what I would recommend. First thing is you have to understand and appreciate the UI test is not going to be 100% right. So including the tools and UI portions are not. So minimize your test, right? We also ran some amount of generative AI to deduplicate your test. A lot of tests are deduplicating. So which means you write a lot of duplicated tests, remove them, right? That may not be the exact answer, but these are all procedures where you can cut down your flakiness, right? But what I would recommend here is once you find the closest subset, which is real UI test, then identify, keep them running consistently for different time period, maybe for different time period to see if the tests are reasonably failing consistently. So once you find them flaky and find out the reason of finding flakiness, is it because of the WebDriver weights, or if it is because of your basically the test data, or is it because of the unclean code, or because of your experts? Find out the reasons and you can write some models which can solve you to do it. Self-healing by locator is just one option. There are a lot of different options you can apply. So I did one of the interesting approach. Whenever my Selenium tests fail, I rerun them with Playwright. So I made that approach, just want to validate if the engine is causing the trouble, right? You run for same data and for the same environment and for the same browser, run with the Playwright engine and find out if that is because of the engine causing the framework which is causing the trouble. It's ideally an approach for you to figure it out and solve it, right? As an UI automation engineer, you never wanted to be really close with a tool. You wanted always to validate the test is working as expected. would be my approach.
Nice. Yeah, I'm always impressed by image-based AI tools that don't even use the locator, and it could tell by, hey, this looks different than another, but it doesn't assume that it's right or wrong. It bubbles it up to the person, say, hey, the test ran, but we made this change based on this visual thing. Is this correct? And leaves it up to the person to say, yes, this is really okay, or it's a real issue. So it doesn't totally negate the user. It goes on, and then it gives the person a chance to say whether or not it was a real issue. I think that's the best of both worlds, almost, to me. All right, so I forget where I saw this question, but it was interesting because I usually don't see these types of questions. What are some of the tips for someone who is a developer who wants to learn the basics of QA? It's usually I've never heard of a developer that does that, but maybe I've been in bad places.
I think most of the because being an educator, I had a lot of women developers who wanted to move to QA because
Really?
they really think it's much more painful moving from development because of the pressure, peer pressure, as well as the working on the weekends. Moving to QA is a better option. That's exactly, I found a lot of women willing to move and took our advice. And for them, it is more than understanding the frameworks, writing codes are easier, but the mindset of QA is always difficult, right? So I encourage them going through the QA mindset because most of the QAs are very good and they are very creative because of the way they approach the problems, right? So developers don't do that really well. So I tell them learning a tool or a framework is much easier, but learn the mindset of QA is maybe very interesting for you to do that. And once they do that, it is maybe they catch up.
All right, so we talked about a developer, but how about if someone's just a beginner and they have to start the learning process? What's your advice? Where would someone start?
If it is for test automation, start always with a language, right? And the language which is very easy for you to learn would be generally people say Python. But Python is a great language to learn. But if you want to be an UI automation engineer, I would recommend you choose Java or JavaScript would be the option. Because if you see any of the UI automation tool today, it could be even talking about Cypress or Playwright, you have JavaScript. Selenium, WebDriver, still with a lot of Java today with the implementation. So learning Java, JavaScript is a good option. Learn that language reasonably well, understand the data structures really well, so understand the problem logics well, then start automating the front-end automation because it is visually appealing. For me, as a back-end automation engineer, it is not visually appealing. So that is why a lot of people love UI automation because whatever you do, you can see on the screen and you enjoy it for the moment, right? So that's something very interesting for us. And that's naturally, I think, for someone who's starting their career, start always maybe with a UI automation would be a good starting point for them, right?
So I always tell people, sometimes they go, I don't know which language to choose, and they're in that way for months and months. I say just choose any language because it basically, once you know one language of programming concepts, it's just a syntax difference almost. So I mean, I would choose Python personally, but like you said, Java and JavaScript are definitely way more popular for sure. All right, we're actually running out of time. Boo, I'm just looking if there's anything quick we can answer. I guess one thing I like to ask everyone before any podcast I always wrap up is there any one piece of actionable advice you'd give to anyone to help them with their automation, AI, machine learning, testing journey?
One piece of advice could be if you want to build any specific solution, right? Find out what is the requirement. So don't start solving the problem big, right? Start small. So when I started my AI after going to the Stanford for understanding machine learning, which is a personal interest, I started doing that, and I started looking at where can I use this as a use case, right, within testing. So I found the best option would be doing something, converting my existing framework to another framework would be a starting point. So I started doing that, and for which I collected the data. And then I went through a lot of understanding about the models which I can use and started doing it small. The accuracy was not great, but you started always small, test them and confirm them. But if someone is doing it today, I think you can use ChatGPT because ChatGPT evolved so much, and you can really start with the ChatGPT API. And if you have not noticed the API, please go and look at the API where you can generate test cases, generate test data. So if you're generating only test data using Faker, this is a time for you. For example, in my case, I'm doing a Salesforce banking project. So if you want a domain-specific test data generation, my advice would be go back and use ChatGPT API to see how to generate test cases or test data for you. That would be the starting point for you to become good at it.
Great advice, Babu. A half hour is not enough. We still have a bunch of questions here. I want to thank everyone, though, for all their questions and making this as an interactive session. And thank you for your advice and your leadership in this space and many more. Thank you so much, Babu. Appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Lambda Test, for allowing me to host this. Appreciate you all.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Good.